So this happened a few years back on a creepy night. The moon was playing hide and seek behind clouds, and darkness seemed to swallow the road ahead. I was out with my buddies driving down this ancient deserted lane that everyone swore was haunted. Trees leaned over the road like they were reaching out, and the whole vibe was giving me major goosebumps. As we cruised down that twisted path, the atmosphere thickened, like something was just waiting to jump out at us. Then bam! The car's headlights flickered and died, and the engine cut out. We were stranded, surrounded by this oppressive darkness that seemed alive somehow. We decided to check the engine, but the air around us felt heavy, like a whispering specter was all around. Weird noises started up from the woods, leaves rustling in a way that made my hair stand on end. My friend Sarah, her voice shaky, pointed to the edge of the road. "Did you see that?" There, barely visible in the dim moonlight fighting through the clouds, stood a figure. It was tall and twisted, swaying like it wasn't quite real. Fear hit us hard as we stumbled back, trying to make sense of what we were seeing. Then, like a nightmare, the figure vanished, leaving us frozen in terror. We managed to restart the car and bolted out of there, but the horror didn't end. The next day, when we watched the dashboard camera footage, our blood ran cold. Just before the figure disappeared, there it was, a reflection in the rearview mirror, a ghostly face staring back at us with empty eyes. And the freakiest part? There were 4 faces in that mirror, but only 3 of us were in the car that night. That 4th face, twisted and haunting like the figure by the road, it wasn't one of ours. Since then, I can't shake this feeling of being watched. Like that 4th presence is still out there, lurking and waiting for who knows what. Late-night journey through the deserted countryside. Late-night drives through the countryside always seemed adventurous to us, like we were in some spooky movie. That night, the darkness enveloped everything, making the familiar road seem eerie and unknown. We were on edge, expecting something to jump out from the shadows at any moment. As we continued our journey, the silence inside the car was broken by the creaking of branches and strange noises that echoed from the fields. My friend Mike nervously joked, trying to shake off the tension, but nobody was laughing. The air felt thick, and it was as if the night itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Then, out of nowhere, a figure dashed across the road. I swear my heart stopped for a moment. Sarah screamed, and I slammed on the brakes. We all stared wide-eyed into the darkness, but there was nothing there. No sign of anyone or anything. It was like the figure vanished into thin air. Shaken, we tried to brush it off as our imagination playing tricks on us. But things only got weirder. The car radio crackled to life, emitting static before a voice spoke in a chilling whisper. "You shouldn't be here." I fumbled to turn it off, my heart racing like a drumbeat. Mike checked the radio, but it was unplugged. None of us dared to speak. It felt like the night itself was warning us to leave, but we were stuck in the middle of nowhere. Just when we thought it couldn't get worse, the headlights flickered and the engine died again. Panic set in as we realized we were stranded in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by an oppressive darkness. That's when we heard it, a faint tapping on the car window, slow and deliberate like fingernails against glass. I turned slowly, expecting to see that figure or something worse. But there was nothing there, just the empty, desolate road staring back at us. We were about to lose it when suddenly the car roared back to life. Without wasting a moment, I slammed my foot on the pedal, desperate to escape that haunted stretch of road. We made it back home, shaken to the core. But as we reviewed the dashcam footage, our blood ran cold. In the frame, during the moment the headlights flickered, there it was again, the figure standing just behind the car, its twisted silhouette grinning at us from the darkness. And here's the twist that chills me to the bone. In the reflection of the car's window, among our horrified faces, there was another, a 4th face, a ghastly, contorted visage that didn't belong to any of us. It was as if it had hitched a ride back with us, unseen and unwelcome. Strange lights and unexplained noises on the road, otherworldly sightings. After that night, things got even stranger. Whenever we drove down that road at night, we noticed these bizarre lights flickering in the distance, dancing in the sky like they were putting on a show just for us. But they weren't like any normal lights. They were bright and vivid, changing colors and patterns that didn't make sense. Sometimes they'd vanish, only to reappear somewhere else, teasing us with their mystery. The first time we saw them, we brushed it off as some strange weather phenomenon. But the noises that accompanied those lights were anything but natural. It was like a symphony of unearthly sounds, a cacophony that made our skin crawl. We couldn't pinpoint where they were coming from, just that they surrounded us, following us like an ominous soundtrack. Then came the sightings. The first one was so quick, a glimpse of something moving inhumanly fast alongside the car. We chalked it up to tired eyes playing tricks, but the sightings became more frequent. Strange shapes darting across the road, disappearing before we could focus on them. The night I'll never forget was when we saw them, aliens, or at least what we thought were aliens. It was surreal, like a scene from a sci-fi movie. They appeared in the field beside the road, tall figures with elongated limbs and eerie, glowing eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. We froze, our breaths caught in our throats as we watched these beings move in a way that defied any logic or explanation. They didn't seem aggressive, but their presence was suffocating, like they were studying us with an otherworldly curiosity. Terrified, I slammed on the gas, speeding away from that unearthly sight, praying it was all a twisted dream. But deep down, we knew it wasn't. We thought it was over when we left that cursed road behind. But as we reviewed the dashcam footage, our hearts sank. There they were, those beings, their unearthly forms captured on video, confirming we hadn't imagined it. And here's the twist that sends chills down my spine. Among those alien figures on the footage, there was a reflection in the car window. A reflection of those creatures, sitting in the back seat of our car, watching us with those haunting, glowing eyes. They had followed us, unseen, and now I can't shake the feeling that they're still around, lurking just out of sight. Bizarre figures appearing in the distance, racing heartbeat. The encounters didn't stop with those alien sightings. Every time we dared to drive past that road at night, we'd see them, bizarre figures, barely visible in the distance. They'd stand there, motionless, almost blending into the darkness. But their presence was unmistakable, sending a chill down our spines. I remember one particular night, my heart racing so fast I thought it would burst out of my chest. The figures were closer this time, as if they were beckoning us to come closer. But we didn't dare. Fear rooted us to the spot, and a sense of impending doom loomed over us. The air felt heavy, suffocating, as if the night itself was warning us to turn back. But it was like we were drawn to these chilling encounters, unable to resist the inexplicable pull they had on us. As we drove past those figures, I swear time slowed down. Their twisted forms became clearer, and their eyes, those glowing eyes, pierced through the darkness, locking onto us. I could feel their gaze chilling me to the bone. And then, as if the universe itself was playing a cruel joke, the car sputtered and died. We were stranded once again, trapped in the vicinity of those sinister beings. Panic set in as we tried to restart the car, but it was no use. That's when we heard it, a low, guttural sound like a mix of a growl and a hiss, coming from right outside the car. I turned to look out the window, and what I saw made my blood run cold. The figures, those haunting beings, were now standing just a few feet away, surrounding the car with their unearthly presence. But the twist that still haunts my nightmares, when the headlights flickered back on, revealing those figures in all their chilling glory, we caught a glimpse of the car's rearview mirror. Reflected among our terrified faces was another face, a grotesque, twisted visage that didn't belong to any of us. It was one of them, sitting in the back seat, their glowing eyes fixated on us, as if they were ready to claim us as their own. And to this day, I can't shake off the feeling that they're still out there, waiting for the perfect moment to make their next move. The midnight hour draped the world in an eerie stillness, a time when even the bravest souls found themselves glancing nervously over their shoulders. The air was heavy with an unsettling calmness, as if the universe held its breath in anticipation of something ominous. Streetlights cast long, ominous shadows that stretched and distorted across deserted streets, painting the urban landscape in shades of murky darkness. The moon, a pale disk in the sky, cast a haunting glow that seemed to highlight every ominous corner and hidden alleyway. The silence was punctuated only by the occasional distant howl of a stray dog or the rustling of leaves carried by a ghostly breeze. The usual hustle and bustle of the city had long faded into the night, leaving behind an unsettling void. As I navigated the deserted streets, the buildings loomed like silent sentinels, their windows like dark, unblinking eyes watching my every move. The echo of my footsteps seemed to reverberate louder than usual, resonating off the walls and creating an unsettling rhythm. The flickering of a broken street lamp cast erratic shadows that danced across the pavement, playing tricks on my senses. It was a scene straight out of a horror movie, where every shadow held the potential for something sinister to emerge. Despite my attempts to shake off the feeling of dread, an inexplicable sensation of being watched lingered like a chilling whisper at the back of my mind. It was as though the night itself harbored secrets, waiting for the right moment to reveal its malevolent intentions. With each step, the air grew thicker, laden with an unspoken menace that seemed to seep into my bones. And just when I thought I couldn't bear the weight of the night any longer, a faint, chilling whisper brushed against my ear, sending shivers down my spine. It was a foreboding introduction to the horrors that awaited in the midnight hour. The appeal of hitchhiking, a dangerous choice. As I drove through the desolate highway, the flickering headlights barely piercing the enveloping darkness, I saw a figure by the roadside, hitchhiking. The sight sent a jolt of unease through me, but a mix of curiosity and guilt compelled me to pull over. The person, shrouded in a long coat, turned towards me, their face hidden in the shadows. "Need a ride?" I asked, my voice sounding unusually loud in the silence. The figure nodded silently and got into the back seat without a word. I tried to catch a glimpse of their face in the rearview mirror, but it remained obscured. The journey continued in eerie silence, the only sound the rhythmic hum of the engine. I stole occasional glances at the figure through the mirror, each time finding them unchanged, their face still hidden in the darkness of the coat's hood. As we neared a remote stretch of the road, a sudden chill filled the car. I sensed a shift in the atmosphere, a palpable tension that made my skin prickle. A shiver ran down my spine as I stole another glance at the figure in the back seat, but this time they were turned towards me, their hidden face inches away from mine. A gasp escaped my lips as I instinctively swerved the car, heart pounding with fear. But as I looked back, the figure had vanished, leaving behind only the chilling echo of their laughter that seemed to linger in the air. Shaken to the core, I sped away from that desolate road, the memory of that eerie encounter etched into my mind. And then, as if mocking my terror, a voice whispered from the back seat, a voice that sounded eerily like my own. "You shouldn't have stopped." As I drove, my mind raced with the chilling encounter I'd just experienced. It was as if the darkness held secrets too unnerving to comprehend. And then, like a whisper from the shadows, my thoughts drifted to the stories I'd heard, real-life encounters unveiled while driving at night. I remembered the tale of a driver who picked up a lone hitchhiker on a desolate road, much like I had. The passenger, a mysterious figure in a dark cloak, had requested a ride to an abandoned house. The driver, feeling uneasy but unable to refuse, obliged. Upon arrival, the passenger had vanished into thin air, leaving only a chilling laughter that echoed through the empty halls. Another account sent a shiver down my spine. A driver, much like me, had been navigating a deserted highway when they noticed a figure in the rearview mirror. With each glance, the figure drew closer until it was mere inches away, its face an indistinct blur. The driver had panicked and swerved off the road, only to find the back seat empty, a phantom presence lingering in the air. These real-life encounters, shared by individuals who traverse the desolate roads at night, mirrored the spine-tingling experience I'd just undergone. The unease I felt now was no longer just a product of my imagination. It was a haunting realization that such encounters might not be mere fiction. As I contemplated these bone-chilling stories, a sudden gust of wind rattled the car, causing me to jump in my seat. But what followed was far more unnerving, a chilling whisper that seemed to emanate from the very shadows around me, echoing the words I'd heard before. "We're always here, waiting in the darkness." As the chilling whispers echoed in the confines of my car, my mind grappled with the psychology of fear, the primal instincts that surged when faced with the unknown terrors of the night. Fear, I realized, wasn't just a reaction. It was a primal survival mechanism. The stories I'd heard and the encounter I'd just experienced triggered that deep-rooted instinct, the fight-or-flight response that surged through me like a bolt of lightning. In the darkness, our minds play tricks, conjuring phantoms from shadows and turning innocent sounds into sinister whispers. The fear of the unknown, of what lurks in the unseen corners, taps into our deepest anxieties, amplifying every creak, every rustle, into something far more menacing. Driving at night, alone on desolate roads, amplifies this fear. The isolation, the uncertainty, it all adds layers to the terror that claws at the edges of our sanity. We become hyper-aware, our senses heightened, anticipating horrors that may or may not exist. But as I grappled with these thoughts, a bone-chilling realization settled over me like a suffocating fog. What if fear wasn't just a construct of the mind? What if the darkness indeed held something malevolent, something beyond our comprehension? As I glanced in the rearview mirror, prepared to dismiss the unsettling whispers as mere figments of my imagination, I saw it, a shadowy figure, barely discernible, sitting in the back seat. And this time it didn't vanish. Its hollow eyes met mine in the reflection, sending a shockwave of terror through me. In that moment I knew the fear wasn't imagined. The terror that gripped me wasn't a product of my mind playing tricks. The horror was real, and it was right there, lurking in the darkness beside me, a silent passenger waiting for its moment to strike. Story 3. Twilight Terrors. Surviving the unthinkable. Hitting someone while driving at night. I remember it vividly. It was one of those nights where the darkness swallows everything, where even the moon seems to hide. I was cruising down an empty road, my fingers gripping the wheel as the headlights cut through the obsidian night. The silence was unsettling, broken only by the hum of the engine and the occasional rustle of leaves. As I rounded a bend, something darted out onto the road. It was sudden, unexpected. I slammed the brakes, but it was too late. The sickening thud echoed in the air as the car jolted to a stop. My heart hammered in my chest as I sat frozen, dread flooding my veins. I stepped out, trembling, fear gnawing at me. But there was nothing there. No one on the road. My breath hitched, my mind racing. Had I hit something? Someone? I couldn't tell. The only evidence of impact was a faint smear on the asphalt. Shivers ran down my spine as I scanned the darkness, my pulse pounding in my ears. With shaky hands, I got back in the car, my thoughts spinning. Was it my imagination? Was it a trick of the night? I drove on, my nerves on edge, trying to shake off the eerie feeling. But then I saw it, a figure standing at the roadside, barely illuminated by the fading headlights. My blood ran cold. It was a girl, her face obscured by the shadows. Panic gripped me. Was she the one I hit? I hit the brakes again, heart pounding in my throat, but as the car screeched to a stop, she vanished into thin air. Tremors racked my body. I couldn't make sense of it. Was I losing my mind? I drove faster, desperate to escape the haunting encounter. But the dread lingered, refusing to dissipate. And then, as I reached a familiar stretch of road, I saw it, the same girl standing on the pavement ahead. My breath hitched. How was this possible? In a moment of terror, I swerved to avoid her, heart racing, only to lose control of the car. Darkness enveloped me as the car tumbled into an abyss of uncertainty. When I came to, everything was silent. My vision blurred, but I could make out a figure approaching. It was the girl. I tried to speak, to beg for forgiveness, but no words escaped my lips. And then, the chilling twist. She leaned in close, her voice a whisper in the void. You were never driving alone. As the girl's whisper lingered in the void, an eerie chill ran down my spine. Her words echoed in my mind, sending shivers through the very core of my being. I couldn't comprehend her message, couldn't fathom what she meant by not driving alone. Fear and confusion gripped me like icy tendrils. When I awoke, I was in a hospital bed surrounded by concerned faces. The accident had left me shaken, battered, but physically intact. Yet, the real torment lay within, the haunting memory of that spectral girl and her enigmatic words. The days that followed were a blur of questions from authorities and hushed conversations. Guilt weighed heavy on my shoulders like a suffocating cloak. I couldn't shake off the feeling that I had caused harm, that I was responsible for something beyond my understanding. Every night as I lay in bed, sleep evaded me. The image of the girl, her form barely visible in the darkness, lingered behind closed eyelids. I couldn't escape her presence, her silent accusation piercing through my thoughts. Friends and family tried to console me, but their words felt distant, drowned out by the echoes of that fateful night. I searched for answers, for any explanation that could soothe the turmoil raging within me. But there were no easy answers, only a haunting uncertainty that refused to fade. As the days turned to weeks, I found myself consumed by a sense of unease. It wasn't just the accident, it was something deeper, something inexplicable. Shadows seemed to shift, whispers danced at the edge of my hearing, and a constant feeling of being watched plagued my every move. I sought solace in therapy, hoping to untangle the web of guilt and fear that had ensnared me. But even the counselor's assurances couldn't dispel the eerie sensation that I wasn't alone, that something unseen lurked in the shadows. And then, one night as I lay wide awake, a cold breath brushed against my neck. A voice, faint and chilling, whispered, "We're never truly alone in the dark, are we?" The room plunged into darkness, and an icy hand closed around my throat. The room fell silent, the icy grip around my throat tightening. Panic surged through me as I struggled against the unseen force. But as quickly as it had come, the presence vanished, leaving me gasping for air in the suffocating darkness. Trembling and disoriented, I reached for the light switch, flooding the room with a dim glow. My heart raced, my breaths ragged. But as I scanned the room, there was nothing, just the stillness of an empty space. Yet, the sense of unease lingered, the feeling of being watched never truly fading. I knew then, in the depths of that chilling moment, that some encounters transcend the physical realm, that some fears never truly leave us. So here I am, haunted by that inexplicable night, forever tormented by the chilling certainty that, in the darkness, something lingers, something beyond comprehension, beyond escape. And as I share this tale, a warning echoes in the recesses of my mind. Beware the shadows, for they hold secrets darker than the night, and some terrors never truly fade away.